I'm here with Geoff Riordan at AAMSCO Identification Products in Little Rock, Arkansas. Geoff, we were just chatting about the fact that you took some time out to get some of your sales team out for some sales training with us. And can you give me a little rundown of what that program was like?
Yeah, we invited Jim Cars and some other dealers that I work with and my sales team in for a one-day training. I think maybe we might have covered it in a day and a half, where Jim kind of just reviewed a lot of the variable aspects that salespeople deal with in trying to sell on a daily basis. As I start thinking through some of the things that we reviewed in that process, Jim went through some of the basics of the sales cycle, where the sales reps need to get involved and how they need to move things forward through the cycle. We talked a lot about what happens when things don't fall into place and get out of sync, and how to bring the customer back around to focus on some of those things. Probably one of the primary benefits that I think my salespeople gained from the meeting was the ability to share specific examples with, among other salespeople, on processes where things did not go according to plan, where things got stuck. And Jim was able to give some examples or ideas on how they could resolve some issues that were live sales that were in process, at the time we had the training. One of the values that we got out of the training seemed more along the lines of reminding the salespeople that they needed to follow a certain criteria and steps in order to keep their time management strategy in place, and how to ensure that as they go through their week, that they've got a strategy to follow through with things.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, the title of the course was the Master Closer course, and we do put a lot of emphasis on closing the sale, not just getting in the door.
Yeah, that's true too.
How was the training program different from anything else you personally may have seen elsewhere, either in your own experience or things you've attended?
First of all, when you're working with Jim just has the capacity to bring everything down to a real ground level. And he's good at drawing in all the participants to get more real-time analysis going on and what they're doing. What's different than this and other courses, probably one of the bigger benefits that I saw from that standpoint was the fact that all of us in the room came out of the same industry. So I've been in other courses with my salespeople and myself where we got lots of people from different industries, and even though they're giving examples and selling is basically selling, it's not quite, it's more realistic when you're talking about the same kind of products and customers that we all deal with. So that's one of the things that really stood out as to, how it was probably different than what I've seen in other trainings.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you think your individual team members or sales folks got from the training, and specifically what did they tell you on the way out?
It kind of more gets incorporated to the overall Prosperity Plus strategy that we use here at AAMSCO. My sales team has been, on the points program, used the battle plan, which is a forecast sheet that they bring to us, on a weekly basis for our sales meetings. And then you incorporate Jim coming down here and holding the sales class. It kind of just all starts folding into why it's important to do the things we're doing. And, if I try to remember, what my salespeople had told me after they came out of the training, it's more like it just reinforced with them why we're taking the time to do the things that we're doing. Why we do a battle plan, why we track the points, why we track the activity, and how monitoring all these things helps keep everybody in line with where their goals are. One of the things that I've learned from working with Jim is that, setting goals and measuring people's progress as they move towards a goal is just critical. And the sales training incorporates some of that goal setting in what we talked about, but again, it's just part of the overall bigger picture of just working with Prosperity Plus.
Geoff, you mentioned the idea of tracking, and you allude to statistics and points and so forth. Can you tell me a little bit about, in the months since the training, have you been able to see a noticeable difference?
We've seen tremendous changes, or increases in primarily revenue since that training, but it's probably part of a bigger strategy that we've done here, where we've moved the salespeople into vertical markets and gotten them more focused on specific products and product lines. And consequently, we've been working at that for a little more than a year, which is about how long ago Jim came down into training, and I believe that's probably a big influence on why we're seeing such dramatic increases in our revenues. It also just comes down to the salespeople have taken more ownership and more responsibility on what they're supposed to be doing and why they're supposed to be doing it. With salespeople, they always fall back to the habits that they're, and then with salespeople also, we find that they'll migrate to the easiest sales they can make. By constantly viewing with them that we have a plan, that there is a strategy, that there's an ongoing education process that doesn't stop on how we can improve ourselves, that's allowed us to just do better in these markets as we went into these more specialized kind of markets.
Tell me about the format itself. I mean, it sounds like it was a very two-way sort of conversational type approach, and it wasn't just a one-way flow with instructor doing lecture and everyone listening and going out the door and going out to play golf afterwards. Is that the case? Was it very interactive?
It was extremely interactive, to the point that the salespeople were kind of, teasing each other as one individual's issues kept coming up or something like that. That's the one thing that Jim does is he turns a presentation more into a dialogue than a presentation. And when the meeting got started, trying to get input from people was a little slow, but once the things started picking up and the dialogue started opening up, you had salespeople talking among themselves, openly in the meeting, with Jim coordinating some of those discussions, and then he would always manage to tie it back around to what he was trying to emphasize in the point, and then he would take that to the next step. I genuinely think the salespeople enjoyed it very much. It was kind of it was more of a fun meeting than a meeting that everybody used. It just comes down to you've got to have your salespeople periodically just review their processes and then also implement new things moving forward in order to just keep things from becoming stagnant. I thought that the cost of the class was reasonable, and I believe it was very worthwhile.